Styles make fights, or so the boxing game tells us, and no clash in Game of Thrones has reaffirmed this more than the epic trial by combat between Oberyn Martell and Gregor Clegane. The Mountain versus the Viper is easily one of the most enthralling fights in the entire series thus far, pitting the incredible power of Clegane against the speed and skill of Oberyn. Ultimately, the Viper was smushed, but surely there must be someone out there who can take down the Mountain. As such, I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 10 Game of Thrones warriors who could defeat the Mountain. Number 10. Robert Baratheon. It can be difficult eradicating the image of the overweight, drunken, whore-loving King Robert of Game of Thrones' first season from our minds, but before the events of the show, the Stag was one of the most feared warriors in all of Westeros, inspiring terror in the hearts of his enemies with the sight of his crushing warhammer. A clash between Robert Baratheon and his former subject Gregor Clegane would be a fascinating one. Ostensibly, the Mountain has an advantage, as while both warriors' strengths is their insane power, you would expect the gigantic Elder Clegane to be stronger even than Robert. However, a younger Robert would certainly have had a speed advantage over Gregor, and an edge in experience. Ultimately, Robert would be used to fighting quicker, more agile opponents, so he would easily be able to connect his warhammer with Clegane's oversized frame. Number 9. Daario Naharis. In a show filled with spectacular choreographed battles, Daario is an abrupt, efficient killer who doesn't beat about the bush in combat. The full extent of his killing ability is seen at the Gate of Meereen, where Daario strikes down the horse of the enemy champion before cutting him in half almost instantly. Naharis professes to be skilled in the ways of women and war. His persistent approach to winning the affections of Daenerys have shown the former to be true, and based on the evidence it seems fairly likely that the latter is equally accurate. With his choice of Dothraki weaponry, Daario would be significantly faster than the Mountain, and his documented ruthlessness means he wouldn't give Clegane any recovery time after drawing first blood. Number 8. Jaqen H'ghar. Jaqen H'ghar, or at least the person wearing his face, still remains one of Game of Thrones' most mysterious characters. What we do know, though, is he's a member of the Faceless Men of Braavos, an elite guild of assassins, and the one thing we know for certain about them is that they can kill. H'ghar's miraculous ability to remain unseen, change his appearance, and kill seemingly anyone at any time means that he would be far too much for the Mountain to handle. Gregor Clegane is a master of cleaving apart foot soldiers on the battlefield and using his size to crush enemies, but the nameless, faceless man of Braavos represents an opponent where Clegane's size won't make an impact at all. Number 7. Sandor the Hound Clegane. Sandor Clegane is every bit the killer that his brother is. Though not as big or as brutal as Gregor, Sandor still has a special talent for the letting of blood. And he has more than enough motivation for killing his brother. In the past, his loyalty to the crown has prevented him from exacting his revenge, but now he has no affiliation with a house. The Hound is free to act as he pleases. His slightly smaller stature may not necessarily be such a disadvantage anyway. We saw in the fight with the Red Viper how effective speed is against the Mountain, and although he's nowhere near as fast as the Dornish Prince, the Hound is certainly more rapid than Gregor. Number 6. Oberyn Martell, pre-Ilyr's murder. Yes, I know he already got crushed by the Mountain, and in fairness, the Red Viper's flattened, bloody head does seem to be some fairly swaying evidence against his placement on this list. However, prior to that final stomach-churning twist, Oberyn had been making the Mountain look like more of a steep incline. The Red Viper looks untouchable for the vast majority of this battle, with Clegane corkscrewing around the arena and chipping away at his adversary at every available moment. Before long, he had virtually conquered the Mountain and stood over his wounded foe waiting for his confession. If only he'd driven that wicked Dornish spear right through the brute's throat. Number 5. Syrio Forel. Syrio Forel is one of the finest swordsmen in Game of Thrones and would be an incredibly difficult opponent for any warrior in the Seven Kingdoms. Forel instructs Arya Stark in the skilled combat style known as water dancing, which foregrounds the importance of speed, footwork, and balance. Though for most of the first season we see Forel sparring with the comparatively tame opponent of Arya, we see his true abilities in the season's climax as he fends off Sir Meryn Trant and a group of Kingsguard cronies with just a wooden sword. Forel is one of the worst possible style matchups for the Mountain. He may be half his size, but he could use his skill and speed to weave within the cumbersome swings of Clegane's greatsword and inflict some serious damage. Number 4. Jaime Lannister. With both hands. Whatever your opinion is of his questionable relationship with his twin sister, the swordsmanship of Tywin Lannister's eldest son cannot be questioned. Prior to Locke cleaving off his sword hand, Jaime was widely regarded as one of the greatest fighters in Westeros. His scrap with Ned Stark, his unsettling murder of cousin Alton Lannister while captured, and his battle with Brienne of Tarth all demonstrate the Lion's ability in combat. When facing the Mountain, Jaime would be able to use his exceptional swordsmanship and footwork to avoid the instantly fatal attacks of Gregor and, like Oberyn, chip away at the granite mountain until he fell to his knees. Number 3. Khal Drogo. Much like Oberyn, Drogo forgoes the heavy armor customarily worn by Westeros soldiers, sacrificing security for speed. Drogo seems to be every bit as fast as Oberyn, but is also incredibly powerful. And if Drogo managed to get inside the reach of the Mountain's huge sword, he would be more than capable of going to work with his own tools. He ultimately died undefeated in combat, succumbing to a weird magic/infection combo. I suppose you could call it a death for whackers, #death for whackers, short one for you there. However, he also shares the same weakness as Oberyn. Drogo is so contemptuous of the challenge of the insubordinate Margo that he allows him to cause a minor wound. Can't be doing that against the Mountain. Number 2. Barristan Selmy. Of the many mistakes made during the reign of Joffrey Baratheon, the Weasel King, dismissing Sir Barristan Selmy from the Kingsguard is definitely one of the biggest. Selmy's experience not only lends itself to invaluable counsel, but he was still the best warrior Joffrey had at his disposal despite his comparatively old age. Were he to fight Gregor Clegane in his prime, Barristan Selmy's skill and mastery of tactics combined with the strength and speed of his youth would mean that he'd easily best the larger man. Number 1. Arthur Dayne. Though he lived and died some years before the events of Game of Thrones, Arthur Dayne still retains his status as perhaps the greatest knight of all time. A member of the Kingsguard for the Mad King, he wielded a magnificent great sword, Dawn, which was purportedly forged from a fallen star. Who needs Valyrian steel, eh? That stuff's for scrubs and liars and probably idiots. Jon Snow. We got a glimpse of Dayne's ability in Season 6, where it was revealed that it took a sword in the back to defeat him, but that only scratched the surface of his talent. Eh? Scratch the surface. Even the legendary Barristan Selmy believes that the Mad King's guard was his superior in every way. And with a knight of Selmy's credentials giving this account of Arthur Dayne, it's safe to assume that the warrior whose deeds have not been forgotten, in spite of his service to the Mad King, could easily dispatch Gregor Clegane. And that's our list. Are there any other mountain topplers we missed off? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me here on Twitter if you fancy. That was weird. I'm Ben from What Culture, and thanks for watching.